Okay.
And I also wanted to smash the mantra that women cannot lead organizations and women are emotional.
Pain and joy, I've had it all, had it all. Can I tell you my story? Oh, this is mine.
Shuvai Mugadza, I am so happy to have you on the Ian Show. How are you, my sister?
I'm glad. Finally, I'm here.
Finally, right? Finally. I've been meaning to get you on the show for a very long time.
Well, from when it started, actually.
Yeah.
I should have been the first.
You should have been the first. But now that I have you here, you know that this is a topic that we've always spoken about. And it comes at the most opportune time because we've just come out of March. The world across, across the globe, people were talking about International Women's Day, how we need to empower, equity versus equality, all these great, hashtags, right? But today we're going to really talk about the reality on the ground.
Yes.
Is there equality for women? Is there a gap that we need to address on the boys' side? Because I strongly have feelings around that. But my question to you, Shuvai, is that you have been a woman who has really grown through the ranks.
Yes.
You are an individual who led an organization at a specific time in your career.
Yes.
And so you've had a seat at the top table.
I have.
My question to you is, how did you get that seat at the top table? What did you have to do to get that seat?
What did I have to do?
What did you have to do?
Okay, before I start, congratulations, my sister.
Thank you.
It's been coming, and it's fantastic when we can have these conversations because they are local content,
Yes.
and they are topical, and they speak to our environment. And there's a lot of things in our environment that we forget about. There is merit in being a man, and there's merit in being a woman, and you can rise as a man, and you can rise as a woman. I think where we get it wrong is when we try and rise in what we're not. Right. Because the truth of the matter is organizations are position-based. When I was in any organization, I was called something and then my name. I was called something and then my name.
Head of.
Head of. Sales and marketing.
Marketing manager of.
Marketing manager comes with its own set of rules and protocols that I have to follow.
Right.
Do they take away Shuvai the woman? No, they don't. But do they take away Shuvai the uniqueness? No, they don't. I then bring in that to enhance my position because everybody, for them now to be called the best salesperson, the best marketing manager, is what they have as a unique character within them that now comes out into the position. What I see going wrong so many times is when women or men try to be in a position and they forget to bring in their uniqueness as a person.
They lose themselves.
They lose themselves. They lose themselves. I don't know whether it's about looking for money, which I don't have a problem with, or looking for power, or saying, as they were growing up, when I get to that position, I'm going to be like that boss, and be bossy. Or like I did, I was saying, I'm going to be unlike the bosses I didn't like. I want to be better than them.
So your motivation was you didn't want to be the boss that you had experienced at work?
Yes, I did not want to be that.
Female boss or just boss in general?
Just boss in general.
Okay.
And I also wanted to smash the mantra that women cannot lead organizations and women are emotional and women are this and no. Women are emotional. Yes, we are emotional. We're supposed to be emotional. Women are temperamental. Yes, it's there. You read in any book or in anywhere. You go to any culture. And inherently, that's what makes us work. You understand? You find if children have to be reprimanded, and they have to be reprimanded in a certain way, it's the mother who can do it without raising their hand. Then when the father says, it's because it's a certain level.
So there's a role play.
There's a role play.
And there are definitions in terms of what a man should be and what a woman should be.
And they change.
Yeah.
Power changes. There's a time when the woman is more powerful than the man, and there's a time when the man is more powerful than the woman. Hierarchy is there. If ever there was going to be equilibrium among human beings, it was not going to work. There's always a 1, there's a 2, there's a 3, there's a 4. I remember at school, I was number 1 and we had to share number 1 position. I got home and I cried and I said, it's not possible. But if our 92% were based on the fact that there was something, there must be a definition where maybe I wrote my name better, or Nita, so I should have got number one. You cannot put me at number one with the same person, because that lack of balance, it means we'll always be looking at each other's going, eye. So that's what I think is wrong with the society right now, that we have refused to let roles interchange. Then we are having our little girls coming up and growing up and now saying, I can be equal. And then they're losing the part of them that's powerful. Femininity is powerful.
And we're going to come back to that point, because that's a very important point, and I want to really talk about that. But let's go back into the work setting. So, you know, coming back to your rise, did you ever feel like you had to be sitting in a board meeting or an environment where you had to be aggressive instead of assertive? And do you think the fact that we're even defining that behavior is representative of the fact that behavior should be different from men and women? Because reality, when a woman, you're right, women are labeled emotional and whatever, but there are consequences to those labels that are real.
They're real.
So, you know, for me, I think it's to say, what is that equilibrium that you took on to say at work, as much as I may be angry, as much as I may be uncomfortable with the situation, I'm going to be assertive around it and not come across as aggressive, because there is a difference there. Right.
If I raise an argument, Emily, it must be backed with a lot of value and a lot of knowledge. If it's not backed by that, then yes, I'm going to be assertive and aggressive to put my point across. You know, when you raise your voice and you've got a point, people will say there's method in their madness, like Hamlet's in Hamlet. But if you raise your voice and you don't have a point, people are like, Mambonzwa shataura, hana shataura. So substance is important. And I always say, in any situation, work hard. This business of when you're a woman, when you walk in, you have to work harder. Yes, it's true. But when you have to work harder and you go in and you show that you've done the work properly, you will get the respect from men. I worked in a brawn environment. Logistics, it's a brawn environment. I couldn't just walk up and say, oh yeah, you're going to put this stuff on this airplane, on this ship, without understanding exactly what it meant. So it made me going down and sitting with those people who understood and allowing them to give me the knowledge, so that when I go into a boardroom and I'm speaking, I'm adding value and I'm speaking from knowledge. But now we have a lot of people who are given positions and they forget about bringing in the value and the knowledge. It's continuous work.
I think that is a brilliant point. Probably the most underrated comment ever, because I really strongly believe that if you don't understand the business that you're working within, if you don't have the core knowledge of what drives the business, then you don't deserve a seat at the table, regardless of what gender.
You don't.
Right?
And kudos to the organization I worked with. Maybe it's because of aggressive training,
right,
and allowing you to grow, and allowing you to also speak up your mind, and allowing you to also work within the institution you're in, also the locality that you're in. They would listen to you, and then they would correct you, and then they would refine you.
Shuvai, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to talk about the fact, quota systems. Do you believe in quota systems? Do you believe that because you're a woman, you deserve to be in a certain organization, you deserve to be given access to a university degree that is a bit lower in terms of qualifications just because you're a woman? But we're going to pick up on that conversation when we come back.
Okay.
This is the EN Show. I am with Shuvai Mugadza, and we will be right back. We're talking women empowerment, so don't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Welcome back to EN. I'm with Shuvai Mugadza. Shuvai, we're talking about quota systems. So I've always had a problem with this, because I don't believe that women should just get access to a certain degree program, a certain institution with lower grading because they are women. I don't believe that. What's your take on that? Because it still exists.
Okay, I agree with you and disagree with you, and want to sort of like put it into perspective. Emily, if you look at our culture, global culture,
right,
women were marginalized at a point. Women were marginalized. We were supposed to look pretty, stay at home, have kids, and dad brings in the big antelope, we cut it up, we cook it, and the man was the provider. As things went on, women were now starting to join the economic, what I call the economic war. Women were now going to work. So the pressure that dad had when he was going to work or to hunt, I was also getting it, right? But it was not easy for me just to walk into that workplace, because somebody owned the workplace and somebody owned that place and somebody owned the provision space, right? So it was two things. Me getting into a workplace and starting to provide for the family, and also me disempowering my man from providing. And the moment we walk into the house and I look at you and I'm like, you can bring $10, I can bring $10. What does that do to the man? It kind of like disempowers them.
But are you saying that as a woman, or are you saying, I can bring in $10 and let's put our money together and let's do something?
Let me get to where I'm getting to, right? Then it got to a point where it was difficult for women to actually get into the workplace because men were saying, it doesn't work. We don't want them there because when they get back home, they're too powerful, they're too bossy. So the quota system had to come in. What the quota system was actually saying is, let's have a place for those women who need to work to come into work. Remember, after the Second World War, some people lost their husbands. They died in the war. Some people lost their brothers and sisters, and families had to have women working. Firstly, they were working in women-only environments. And then in those women-only environments, they would find there's one who excels. They make her a manager. And again, that's where the problem was. So the quota system was actually to make sure there's a balance where we had lost our brothers or our husbands, da-di-da. Now we come into our cultural setting in Zimbabwe.
As Africans.
Rather as Africans. The girl child has always been seen as the next asset after the cow, or bringing in the next asset as the cow. Is she looking pretty? Is she old? Can she bring in 15? Can she bring in 10? Can she bring in 10? Then with the mix of our cultures from wherever, it was possible to have the girl child go to work, get educated, and still get married and bring in the cows. Though we still had those staunch people who didn't believe in that. So the quota system was now saying girls can go to school and should go to school. Then, if she fails, what would the father say? Wakafuera, waskwenda ku form 4, wakafuera, waskwenda ku A level. But mkomana akapasa, ngayendelele mbele.
Which is still happening to this
Which is still
very day.
happening till today.
Right.
But for me, if it's still happening till today, in another show, I'll blame the parents because the resources are now there for everyone, for the girl child and the boy child. I believe the quota system should come to a point where it should be sunsetted. People like you and I have fought enough that our daughters don't actually have to be proud because ndakapinda basa ne quota system. They must say, there were guys in there, 10 of them, and because I was the best in the interview, they gave me the job. It doesn't matter the setting. Because there are no engineering degrees that are being said, this is engineering female or engineering male,
Engineering
pilot
is engineering.
female, or pilot. There's no she doctor or he doctor, he lawyer or she lawyer. We are all doing the job carefully. I still keep asking a question. Would you then say a female doctor does it better? Or a male doctor does it better, or a doctor does it. So for me, the quota system has to be sunsetted because we've gotten to a point where our children have understood how to walk the ropes and they can do everything without having to be handheld or being felt sorry for.
So when you refer to our children, is it more you referring to our girl children or our boy children?
Both, because we're leaving the boy child behind.
We are leaving the boy child.
We are
child
empowering
behind.
this girl child and leaving the boy child behind. Then they meet at a certain point. They're in a relationship. And we've got an empowered girl child who's got all of these things at their table. And this boy child who has to step up. You now have the issues of depression.
He doesn't know how.
He doesn't know how. But in the meantime, when he goes to certain quarters, he's being told, mruma kadai, mruma kadai, mruma kadai. He meets this girl child who's like, oh, okay, sure, go ahead, But we knew how to handle those kind of warume wakadai, so we had the mechanisms within us. But that empowerment has now left the boy child. And we're finding a lot of drug abuse, a lot of depressed men, and a lot of men with mental health issues because we're leaving them behind. We have created warriors, Amazon warriors out of our girls. That's why I'm thinking this whole quota system should be sunsetted. And now we should create a system where the competition is who did best. And within the family home, we encourage people to study as hard. If you don't get it, you didn't get it.
Across the board.
Across the board.
Yeah.
And then again, we have to create organizations, which I like some organizations now. The human resources function is now becoming very little human interface. You put in your CV there. Some of them are actually saying, don't even put in your gender. It selects the best candidates. Then you're called onto that. Then you actually have an AI interview. And then when you walk in, oh, you're actually a boy. Oh, you're actually a girl.
So the selection process is not based on Emily, David, so-and-so.
Yes.
It's based on candidate
Competences.
X, candidate Y.
And what the organization is.
And what the organization needs.
Yes. And I know a lot of people are going to say to me, you're going against what you believe, because I truly believe there should be more women in the boardroom. I believe that. But then I was talking to one organization before, and I won't name them before. And I looked at it and I said to myself, what girl wants to work in that organization? Especially in the African setting, because it needs a certain kind of voice that has to be male. We have to be real about those things as well.
So there is still a male patriarchy that is kind of invisible within organizations, would you say?
Yes, within all, there's also a female matriarchy.
Or it's cultural.
It's cultural, even a female matriarchy as well. I would ask a question. How many people are comfortable with a male nurse? You have been to the theater. You have been to the maternity ward. Would you be comfortable with a male nurse?
So I have a story about that. No, I'm joking, but I really did feel uncomfortable with a male nurse.
You see,
I did.
You see, your first instinct and your
Is
first
that
response,
a nurse should be a woman?
Yes, you see.
Truly.
And is it wrong or is it right?
Right.
We can't question that because wrong and right are dependent on 20 people, 30 people.
Right.
That is the same thing with certain organizations. I always ask myself, when guys start working in construction, the first thing is, they've got conversations, they say, and whatnot. I'm looking at women who are now in there. They are diluting that conversation and they're diluting that adrenaline. When guys work now, they're very conscious of what they say because these conversations are not.
And maybe they should be. But we're going to take a break, Shuvai. This is EN. We are talking women empowerment. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to EN. So, Shuvai, we were talking about the boy child. But before I even go on to the boy child, you mentioned something in segment 2 where you mentioned that women can often be perceived to be bullies.
Yes.
But vakadzi munotaurisa.
Hey,
Vakadzi munotaurisa
it's in
mumba.
our DNA.
You nag.
On another show, Emily.
You nag.
On another show, Emily.
So what do we do with nagging women who cannot take the hat off your boss and then come home and be a mom? Because that's the reality, Shuvai. You're talking about men who are depressed. You're talking about men who don't go home because there is a woman who's trying to be a boss in her home. I know that they're out there.
Okay.
It's wrong.
Without advertising her, I always remember she always had a very interesting story that when she joined her job, I think it is one of these banks, I won't say what because we need to go and collect from them once I've mentioned their name, right? So they offered her a car and I think it was a Fortuner or something. Then she went home and she told her husband about it. Kuti end up offered this motor kumba. And then they were having a conversation with her husband and the husband, just because, I got to know and discreet motor, just because. And she turned it down. And she said, I did so because I love my peace and I love my husband enough to allow myself for him to say no. And there was no reason, if I'm correctly representing the story.
Right.
She put me into perspective of a woman who understood what the long-term reason for a marriage was. And the long-term reason for a marriage is to create an environment of peace for everyone. And sometimes, even if that peace means you're internally destabilized, but everybody else has got peace, then it's okay. Because you can imagine if this car had come, it would have brought on so many things. And I like the way men always bring in the conversation, and that connotation has got so many statements in there which are not said. Loaded, which can disturb you. So my advice to women is, I don't know. Because firstly, I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not married. And I don't know if my rise would have happened if I was married, because there's a point where I was so fixated with my job and wanting to do so well, I would not have been a good wife, Emily.
Okay. Which is the reality. And thank you so much, Shuvai, for saying that, because I think as women, when we talk about women empowerment, there's a perception that you can balance it. And something suffers. I've always been consistent. Something in your life will suffer. It may not be intentionally that one thing will go down whilst you're raising another. But even when we look at, pregnancies at work, you have to plan. When am I going to fall pregnant? In what career, what stage of my career will I fall pregnant? When am I going to start rising? Because pregnancy, as much as we want to say...
It's 3/4 of the year.
It's 3/4 of the year.
It's 3/4 of the year.
You've lost.
And if it was like my second pregnancy, I was down every single day.
Right.
When I got out of the theater, I was like, welcome to me. You understand? And then I also want to put in another thing. A position comes with responsibilities, and some of those responsibilities have to be taught. I was up and down in different countries being taught how to do my position. You can imagine this man saying, kabeg ke pink kabuda, kabeg ke yellow kabuda, kabeg. And there's always the airport drama where I've watched couples when a guy is dropping off his wife at the airport and she's going maybe for business, and the guy's looking at what she's wearing and who's staring at her. Then he stands there when she's going through the gate, and there are all these guys also looking at her. By the time she comes back, he's already created an image of what didn't happen, And that's the reality. Men are frail in that element. It's just them, And jealousy resides in men more than in women, Women, we discover jealousy, we act on it. Men are jealousy all through. It's their DNA that's like a permanent state, You leave your boyfriend, he's already thinking, where is she? What is she doing? It's whatnot. With women, we're already occupied. Because we've got a busy life.
Are you saying women are not jealous though, Alice?
No, they are, but when
because
they
discover... Because I think women, when they get jealous, they can actually become nasty.
When they discover. A comfortable woman who hasn't been given a reason to be jealousy, you can live with. But unlike men, a man will call you background, mascati. With women, manero. We're like, who's talking manero? How many times have you really worried about what's in the background?
So isn't it a trust issue though at the end of the day?
For another episode. But I'm still saying, if a woman is that mobile and she has to work and she has to rise, there's going to be a trust issue because the guy is thinking, what is happening? And also remember, guys are the culprits, so they know what they do. So that they're thinking, is it being done unto my wife?
As well.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
So anyway.
So there's a societal
pressure.
Issue.
Yes.
A guy said to me one time that there was, when he first got married, there was a lot of pressure for him to get a small house within his circles because he was the only one who was being loyal.
Which is
there was a lot of pressure for him to get a small house.
Which is okay,
which is okay, but for him, there was that social pressure that he had to manage. Whether or not he then eventually did get a small house is another thing. But I think to say that, society has said it's okay for men to cheat, it's okay for men to have a plethora of other different relationships in their lives. Women, we're not there to contend. We're not there to do the same. But we have to acknowledge the fact that probably if you do get caught as a woman, the consequences
are much more deadlier. But anyway, Emily, going back to our topic on Women's Month, I want to say two things that are very important for the nation of Zimbabwe, especially to parents. Let's not leave the boy child behind, because I think a lot of that is happening now.
Yeah.
Whether it's within schools or even within the workplace, there has to be a conscious development of the boy child within the workplace. You understand? Even saying to them, when you were applying for this job, when this girl got the job, support her. Because they are emasculated when they don't get the job, and guys take it harder than women. Guys take it harder because, for men succeeding, going forward and whatnot, it's a status thing. For women, it's also a status thing, but we don't take it as hard. So within the workplace, there must be support for that. And then also within the workplace, there must be support for women in saying, when you have risen to a certain level, be the leader that can replicate themselves and everybody else admires, that you leave a legacy of being a person who had this uniqueness in them that was good and that was human. Because the age of AI, the age of robots is coming. For now, let's milk this age of humans and be good humans. Yeah.
And let's just be good humans.
And
You're
be
right.
good humans, yeah.
Shuvai, it's been a pleasure to have you on the EN show.
Thank
so
you.
little time.
It is.
So little time.
We need to come back and talk about this whole story, polygamy.
Actually, we're going to pick that up on EN Extra. So if you're watching the EN show, please log on to our YouTube channel. And if you want to catch this conversation going further, you want to make sure that you're subscribing, you're liking, and you're sharing. Shuvai, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. And congratulations. And to the people of Zimbabwe, we're getting there.
We are.
We're getting there.
Slowly, but we're getting there.
Getting there.
Sending love and light your way always.
Yeah.
See you soon. Welcome to EN Extra, and I'm with Shuvai Mugadza, my guy, my friend, my person.
I can tell that's the controversial laugh. Something is coming.
No, not even. But honestly, for me, I think you have been the one person in my life who has always, you've never held back on your opinions. And I think this is why I love having you on the show. But we're talking about polygamy and just the license to cheat. The license to cheat that we give men. Is this You think it's a societal thing? Do you think it's cultural? And then when women try and do it, which I'm seeing a lot more, it is a total failure.
I think, Emily, you've already put yourself in a position, and that position, I can't change it because I'm a realist. You know, when you say polygamy and you say license to cheat, you're talking about two different things. Polygamy is marrying many women in the confines of making them legal, of making them known to your family, and making them not hiding them.
Okay.
Cheating is hiding.
Okay.
And Emily, when I sit down to have a cup of tea, and I say I don't drink tea with sugar, then later on, I'm coming out of your kitchen, that's cheating. But if I sit by the table and I say I have 20 cups of tea, 1 cup of tea with 20 teaspoons of sugar, as much as you might open your eyes and be like, that much sugar, but do you know what? 20 teaspoons of sugar. That's the difference between polygamy and cheating.
Right.
Right. A man who comes out and says, Emily, you're going to be my wife. Shuvai, you're going to be my wife. Jackie, you're going to be my wife. Sibo, you're going to be my wife. He goes to our families and he tells all of us that, I think, let him be. It's the choice of me saying, no, I don't want to be your second wife or your third wife or your fourth wife. But if the conversation is had and I agree, I have no problem with that. I just have a problem when we are all your wives, all your whatevers, and none of us know, then there's degradation of the economic power in our homes or the financial power in our homes, and another home suffers. And this guy actually cannot afford. A guy who's polygamous should be able to afford the emotions that come with polygamy.
He should have the money
that comes with polygamy, the love that comes with polygamy, and the stamina that comes with polygamy, and the respect of those women. Is that possible in this day and age now, where the dollar itself is 50 cents when you get it? And is it possible? No. So that is why it is not advised and it is not recommended. But if you can afford, who is there to stop you? But it's when you try and do things and you make it seem like you're the one and you're busy calling yourself Mr. City Man and all these women are yours and you can't take care of them and you've got children suffering, then there's something wrong with it. Because there was a setup where polygamy was supposed to be done correctly.
So my question, here's another question. The dating game. When I used to date, totally different genre, era, completely. The dating of today, women want more. Women want, I've been in conversations where women want cash. If there's no cash, there's no conversation. Women want materialistic things. Is that right to want all of that and not want a person who can actually carry a conversation, who can actually grow their business with you as a cheerleader, as a partner, as a, someone who walks the line with them? But instead, women are saying, if you don't have your cash, I've got 10 points. And if this guy doesn't have these 10 points, then I'm not going to have a conversation with him. Is that correct in this day and age?
The ideal and the real. Let's talk about the ideal. The ideal is what you spoke about, the conversation guy, the provider guy, the one we grow with together, we date together, then we get married and that's the dating. The real is guys are demanding certain things out of women and women are also coming back with their demands. Guys are saying, I want to be with a mannequin, a slay queen and whatnot. So it takes a lot for me to now be a mannequin and a slay queen. So if you come and you've made those demands on me, pay for it. That is where this conversation is coming. Because if you look at these women who are demanding that, would you demand that, Emily? Because you're solid and you know what you're worth. I wouldn't either because I will work hard for it. But the person who's gone and bought a weave, who's invested in coloring their skin, and I've got nothing wrong with that, but I'm just talking about that, or doing something with your body, then pay for it. So it's the guys who are also bringing these demands. If we were to talk about sitting down and having a conversation, it has nothing to do with what I look like because it's a tiniest thing. You now start finding over time what common ground you have. But do people have that time now to say, we are going to chat on the phone, like what we used to do on the phone, Kudara, when bye was a mission, you say bye, no, I say bye, you say bye, I say bye, you wait. You put the phone down.
I'll put the phone down.
Do people still go through that? They don't. That process has been cut short because everybody comes with what they want to the table. I'll tell you a funny story. I met a guy who said,
wow. And then
saka vasikana ivo vakauyiwo vanoti ndanga ndisingakude uri kuchikoro because wanga usina mari saka unza mari. Anditi, let's not put this on the woman only and not put it on the guy only. Let's put it on society. Let's go back to where society puts some reverence in dating, put some respect in dating. And our children understand that we can go to Wimpy and have our milkshake one in a straw to share say yapera to see pa makombi. But mote yakwe no biwani mwana wako mkoma na wewe because he wants to impress a girl. Let's go.
And
back.
obviously COVID musamwe drinks together.
In a straw.
In a straw.
Well, but I'm just saying.
But I hear you.
We need to get back to those basics.
Yeah.
We need to find a way to teach.
It was
those
courtship,
things.
and now there is no courtship.
You go to the movies now. I'm a movie person. I watched John Wick 4 recently. It was empty. I couldn't think John Wick would have come out during our day and age and it would be empty because that's where we would meet and that's where we would court and that's where people would know that that's Emily's boyfriend and people would respect that.
But now it's been replaced by social media, Instagram. That's Emily's boyfriend. On the scroll, that's Emily's boyfriend.
And if
that's Emily's boyfriend.
And if I'm not on the profile, I'm not the boyfriend. What if we've just got a relationship that's silent?
Yeah, Matara Jakawanda, Madam Shuvai, we are ending EN extra.
Yes.
But we're going to talk more offset. So if you're watching this, please leave a comment. We want to hear what you have to say about this. I'm sure you have something to say. So please leave a comment, subscribe, like, and share our YouTube channel. And we will see you soon. Us too, sending love and light your way.